Are committed to giving you news as they happen here on SABC News. We now cross back live to our correspondent, Casas-Montanez, who joins us via Skype to tell us more about Minister Michael Masutha's address to the ICC today. Elena, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Do tell us, the whole country is waiting with bated breath to hear what exactly did the minister say to the ICC today?
Well, we heard from him here at the ICC in The Hague just about half an hour ago, and he made a very strongly worded case for why South Africa has decided to leave the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. He said South Africa will not apologise for not having arrested Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir when he was in South Africa for an African Union summit on peace talks in Sudan. And he said that South Africa's obligation to arrest people who've been indicted by the International Criminal Court, like al-Bashir, conflicts directly with its other obligation to help African countries like Sudan reach a peace settlement. Now, what South Africa would like to see, he said, is that the International Criminal Court respects the international principle of diplomatic immunity for sitting heads of state, like Mr. al-Bashir, so that countries like South Africa can help war-torn countries like Sudan with peace processes and with diplomatic moves like that, without the obligation to arrest Mr. al-Bashir as soon as he arrives on South African territory. Now, I did have a brief interview with the Justice Minister after he'd spoken, and I asked him if the International Criminal Court was addressing South Africa's concerns, and if the decision to leave the ICC is something that the South African government might still consider reversing. And he said that at some point the South African government had to draw a line. They'd been having this argument about the conflict between South Africa's different international obligations with the ICC for some time now. They felt that African countries aren't being listened to by the ICC, and as a result, this is the only step they feel they can take.
Elena, speaking of those concerns, we know that, some African countries also submitted their intentions to withdraw from the ICC today. Can you tell us, you were there, was it maybe because of similar reasons that they all want to withdraw from the ICC?
Well, the only two countries who've yet announced that, like South Africa, they also would like to leave are Burundi and the Gambia. Now, certainly lawyers here at the ICC believe that both of those countries are trying to prevent specific individuals within those countries from being investigated by the court. Certainly, Burundi is currently the subject of an investigation into possible ongoing war crimes and crimes against humanity being carried out by the government there. So when I spoke to the South African Justice Minister, he seemed keen to draw a line between those countries and what South Africa is trying to do. South Africa, he said, is trying to make a principle of international justice, to make a principled point. And he was also very keen to emphasise that pulling out of the ICC doesn't mean that war criminals will find a safe refuge in South Africa. We will continue to fulfil our international obligations, he said.
A very quick one, Elena, before I let you go, I'm not sure if you heard while you guys were inside the chambers at the ICC, Vladimir Putin also made Russia's intentions very, very clear that they also want to pull out of the Roman statute. Now, what does this latest development mean for the court as an entirety, as a body?
Let's bear in mind that the Russian government had never ratified the Treaty of Rome, which created the International Criminal Court. So they signed the treaty back in the year 2000, 16 years ago, but never actually ratified it. So they've not pulled out of the court because they were never technically a member. And Russia, of course, is also potentially in the firing line of a future investigation. Lawyers at the ICC have been talking about preparing a case against potential Russian war crimes being committed in Aleppo in Syria. And the lawyers also put out a report just a couple of days ago describing Russia's annexation of Crimea, which had been a Ukrainian territory in 2014, as an occupation, which is the kind of language that the Kremlin does not like to hear at all. So it does seem that Vladimir Putin is pursuing a little bit of a personal grudge against the court here by pulling out. And certainly everybody here is keen to state that it's not another case of a country leaving the court. It's a country that never had much commitment to the International Criminal Court in the first first place, simply deciding it doesn't want to join.
A very quick one, Elena, before I let you go. This is all very interesting. I mean, we saw the headline from the proceedings at the ICC saying that the ICC is saying don't go to the African countries. But what reasons are they giving these African countries that want to pull out? Are they saying that, like you mentioned before, are they going to address their concerns in the near future? And if so, I mean, how soon can that be?
Well, the International Criminal Court very much insists that there is one standard of international justice for everybody, and that includes heads of state like Omar al-Bashir. So they're not willing to tolerate the idea that diplomatic immunity could be extended to those people. They say it's a very key tenet of the Rome Statute, which created this court, that diplomatic immunity for heads of state cannot be allowed. Everybody is accountable under the rule of law, including heads of state. So concerns like that are something that lawyers here at the ICC believe are attempts to undermine international justice, to water it down, and it's not something that they want to see happen. They say, for example, that the United States is not a member of the International Criminal Court. That's because the US wanted specific provisions that didn't apply to other countries, like being allowed to use their own prosecutors to carry out investigations if one of their citizens was indicted. And the ICC said no, even for the US, we will not bend the rules, and they don't want to be seen to be bending them for South Africa either.
Elena, thank you so much for that update. That is Elena Casas-Montanez, who was joining us via Skype, and she was talking to us about what Minister Michael Masutha actually said when he made his submissions to the ICC on why South Africa is pulling out of the International Criminal Court.